Hey guys, look what I got. That's right, I got the Freewing L-39 Albatros. In this video, we're going to unbox it. We're going to take a look at all the parts and pieces, and then you're going to see what it looks like assembled after I've already built it. And then at the end, we're going to do our pros and cons. Coming up next, we're going to see what's going on inside the box. All right, guys. Here's what the first layer in this box looks like. Yes, that's right. There are two layers in this box. We've got the gun pod there in the upper right-hand corner. And of course, we have this little wire snaker right there that comes with Freewing jets. Other jets do not come with those, so that is an extremely handy tool. In fact, I use the one from my BAE or Bayhawk to do my most recent Viper jet. So there you go. All right, so I am going to take off this top layer and we're going to see what's going on underneath. And here is the second layer. The detail on this is absolutely incredible, guys. My goodness. This is just beautiful. Okay, so I'll take the stuff out, spread it around a little bit, but I've got to get this thing built. I want to see this thing fully assembled in person. All right, we're going to do some stuff coming up next. All right, guys, here's a look at all the parts and pieces taken out of the box. Here's a look at the fuselage. Beautiful drop tanks. And of course, you can see the main wing right here. And the thing that stood out to me the most about this, and this is probably the only part that I'm not terribly happy with, is we've got some overspray there, got some red showing through that white. Not exactly cool. A little bit on that side, but worse on the other, of course. But everything else just looks fantastic, so I can't be too nitpicky. Of course, here's that infamous gun pod and our wingtips with the lights. All right, so now when we come back, I'm going to have this thing all built and we're going to do some demonstrations, and I'm also going to probably have some build notes to share with you guys. That's all coming up next. All right, guys, here's everything put together, at least everything that I plan to put on it, with the exception of the push rods for the control surfaces. And this right here, this little wire snaker I call it, it is extremely handy. The build is really quite straightforward and easy on this plane, I have to say. The only thing that was really somewhat challenging, and it really wasn't that bad, was putting these wingtip lights on, which, look at these wingtip lights, guys. Wow. All right, I'm going to show you how these turn off and on here shortly. We're going to look inside the canopy, but I wanted to give you a little tip on these wingtip lights right here. I wanted to say that a good rule of thumb is to wrap the plugs that plug in for the different light sets in electrical tape. That way when you're installing them, they don't slip and slide, they stay nice and firmly installed. So there you go, take that for what it's worth. And coming up next, we are going to take a peek inside the canopy. All right, guys, before we look inside the battery bay, let's take a look at this front suspension here. Take a look at the cruise-in stand that I use. I love this thing. Shout out to John Zinn of Cruise-in Stands. And look at this main landing gear suspension. And look at those tires. These tires are really, really nice. Nice rubber. I barely gave it a flick and that thing just spun forever. So I'm not sure if there are ball bearings in there or whatever, but very, very nice. Let's have a look inside the battery bay now. And I've got my Infan 4200. Got a receiver back there. There's a little spot for the receiver there behind the wires. The plugging things in, very, very easy once you understand what the manual is trying to tell you to do. Awesome. And look at this battery bay. It is absolutely massive. One other thing I want to point out, these magnets are extremely strong. So if you have a hard time getting your canopy off, know that that is to be expected, because we've got some magnets there, and when you pull that pin back, you have to give it a pretty darn firm tug, so be aware of that. Coming up next, we're going to have a look at something else. So right now I am going to do a landing gear retraction demo and kind of show you how the landing gear lights work. You hear that switch right there? That is to suck up the landing gear, and you notice that there's a pretty significant delay. So definitely be ready for that, especially if you're watching this, you're trying to figure out what to do with your new plane, what you can expect. That's definitely something that you need to be able to expect, especially if you're flying it and you expect it to retract up or down real quick and then you panic. Don't do that. That's really not good. And there's a switch down, and you'll know that it takes, I'd say it takes about, what, 3 seconds maybe? And those lights are awesome, guys. My goodness. Okay, I'm going to connect the control surfaces and everything, and then when we come back, we will have this thing complete, and we'll do probably an EDF test. That's all coming up next. Okay, so all the control surfaces have been attached, and here are the ailerons. Here is the rudder. You can see that nose wheel moving at the same time. Very cool. You got the elevator. Got the flaps. And none of these are my final settings. These are just kind of the preliminary settings. As I go on, I get my flights in, fine-tune things. That is when you're going to want to look in the description. I'm going to have those updated as I go along, so definitely look for those. Coming up next, we're going to test the EDF unit. Yes, that's right, guys. We are going to listen to this EDF fan coming up next. So now we're going to do our EDF test. We've got a really obvious, recognizable battery right there. I've got one on each side. So we are using those as blocks. That way this thing doesn't just jump off our desk, bed, whatever you want to call it. Without further ado, let's give it a rip. I'm not going to give it all the way up because I really don't want to have any issues indoors here. That would really be ugly, but let's give it a go. Okay, it just about knocked over my light box that was directly behind it. I think that's a good test. Coming up next, we're going to do a couple other things. Believe it or not, guys, everything is pitch black in here. The only light source are those beautiful, big, intense lights coming off this Albatros. This is awesome, guys. All right, I wanted to do that quick little show and tell. Coming up next, we're going to do our pros and cons. All right, guys, we're going to try and wrap up our video here. As far as the pros go, this is a very big EDF jet, nice and detailed. Just look at it. Just look at what's on your screen right now. This thing is very big, detailed, and impressive. I love it. As far as the flaps go, it's very nice flaps. Also has really nice bright LED lights, which I covered in that last clip. I really had to just go pitch black. Now, if you looked at it without the lights, it would literally be completely black because I've got this room blacked out. I sleep in here. I don't like light. Anyhow, before we get off into a tangent there, this thing has really nice, robust suspension. You can see that right there. Boom. Trailing links. Awesome. As far as the battery options go, that's another big pro. I've got 4000s that I can use, 4200s I can use, and I just got some 5000s for a jet that I've got coming this way, so look for that one as well. Really the only cons that I can figure out, and it's just a singular con, is the overspray paint that I talked about earlier in the video. Other than that, this thing is just striking, impressive, and I really cannot wait to get it out and fly it. With all that being said, like, comment, and subscribe, and GB Linden out.